Now we don't hear you.
You do not hear me at all?
We don't hear you.
I can hear you. I can hear you, yes.
You can hear me.
Yes.
Tosha, can you hear me?
I can hear you, council member.
Okay, okay. Amelia is the one in the dark. All right. It is showing that I'm speaking. The microphone is showing the green.
It is working.
Amelia, is that better? No.
I think Amelia.
I think something must be wrong with Amelia's sound because everyone else can hear you fine, council member.
All right, I hear you.
We should be good to start whenever you're ready.
I hear you.
Just a minute. Do you hear me, Amelia?
Yes, I was switching to.
All right. Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, let me gavel down in some fashion or the other. Good morning. I'm Councilmember Anita Bonds, Chairperson of the Committee on Housing and Executive Administration. The time is 10:03 a.m. on Friday, May 20th, 2022. We are meeting remotely via Zoom to hold a roundtable on the confirmations of Ms. Christine Jones for full-time Commissioner of the Real Property Tax Appeals Commission, Ms. May S. Chang for full-time Commissioner of the Real Property Tax Appeals Commission, Mr. Trent T. Williams for full-time Chairperson of the Real Property Tax Appeals Commission, Ms. Melissa Lee for District of Columbia Housing Authority Board of Commissioners, and Mr. Edward Fisher for District of Columbia Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. We will begin the hearing with the Real Property Tax Appeal Commission nominations, followed by the DC Housing Authority nominations. The Real Property Tax Appeals Commission was created to conduct fair and impartial real property assessment appeals hearings for the citizens of the District of Columbia. The Commission's objective is to ensure that appellate real properties are assessed at 100% of market value based on properties similar in size and utility so that an equitable tax burden is shared. The Real Property Tax Appeals Commission is the second level real property assessment and appeals process. Prior to filing with the Real Property Tax Appeal Commission, a first level administrative appeal must have been filed with the Office of Tax and Revenue Assessor's Office. Our first nominee, Ms. Christine Jones, was nominated by Mayor Bowser for reappointment as a full-time commissioner for a term to end April 30th, 2026. Ms. Jones is a licensed real estate broker and is a current commissioner on the Real Property Tax Appeals Commission. She has over 40 years of commercial and real estate experience and utilizes her managerial expertise to oversee the successful operation of a boutique real estate firm. Our second nominee, Ms. May S. Chang, was nominated by Mayor Bowser for reappointment as full-time commissioner for a term to end on April 30th, 2026. Ms. Chang is a current commissioner on the Real Property Tax Appeals Commission and is former Chinatown Cultural Center Executive Director. She also served as principal where she successfully developed $3.5 million in residential subdivision and founded the minority development team for the Kingston Bedford Parcel 18 project and is a current member of the Chinatown Steering Committee. Our third nominee, Mr. Trent T. Williams, was nominated by Mayor Bowser for a reappointment as a full-time chairperson for a term to end April 30th, 2026. Mr. Williams has been a member of the commission since 2012 and has been involved in various scopes of the agency's duties, such as writing decisions, preparing for hearings, and mentored new commissioners. In addition to serving the district government, Mr. Williams is also an attorney and has advised corporations, government agencies, nonprofits, and individuals in areas of real estate investments, business development, tax management, retirement, and many other areas of fiduciary service. Given the financial challenges that many real estate owners face due to the pandemic, the Commission's caseload has also been severely impacted with more appeals. I am curious to hear more about each nominee's experiences with the agency throughout the years, feedback that they may have regarding improvements that they would like to see made for and to benefit the residents of the district, and their plans for the future of the Commission, especially in light of the mayor's proposal to reduce senior homeowner property tax assessment to cap at 2% instead of the current 5%. So we have a lot of business to hear from the nominees this morning. We will, and I would like to acknowledge any of my colleagues that may have joined us. Ms. Simpson, okay, thank you. All right, so we will solo this and move as swiftly as possible. We will now begin to hear the testimony from the Tax Appeal Commission nominees, and we'll start with Ms. Christine Jones, and then be followed by Ms. Chang, and finally Mr. Williams, who are the subject of the resolutions before us today. And again, we'll hear from, after we hear from the Real Property Tax Appeals Commission nominees, we will of course hear from the District of Columbia Housing Authority Board of Commissioners nominees. And now I would like to ask the three nominees if they would come forward and we can administer the oath. Come forward, that is virtually, of course. All right, thank you very much. Okay, I see. Do we have everyone here?
We do.
All right, okay. My monitor only gives me 2 pictures, so that's why I'm at a little disadvantage. But good morning, and thank you for being here with us. Would you raise your right hand? And all right. Now I see 3. All right. Do you swear and affirm that your testimony and any statements that you make before us today to be truthful and complete?
I do.
I do.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. We will begin with Ms. Jones, and she is testifying regarding, let me get to the exact, PR 24-0632 for a full-time commissioner of the Real Property Tax Appeals Commission. Ms. Jones.
Good morning, Honorable
Good morning.
Chairwoman Bonds and any of the council members with you. I am honored to come before you seeking your support for my nomination and reappointment to serve on the Real Property Tax Appeals Commission. Firstly, I wish to thank the Almighty because whatever talents, skills, and or abilities that I may possess are from above. I also wish to offer my deep gratitude to Mayor Bowser for nominating me to this position. And if confirmed, I will endeavor to represent Mayor Bowser and you, the members of the Council of the District of Columbia and the citizens of the District of Columbia with an earnest and devoted purpose. It has been a high honor, a great privilege, and a distinct joy to represent Mayor Bowser and her administration, as well as the great citizens of the district. I have made every effort to fulfill the Commission's objective and mission, which is, quote, to ensure the appellant's real properties are assessed at 100% of market value based on properties similar in size and utility, so that an equitable tax burden is shared ad valorem real property taxes, unquote. I wish to share with you some information about myself to better acquaint you with who I am. I'm a native Washingtonian, pardon me. I am a lifelong resident of the city, except for my attendance at Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia. I attended Georgetown Day School, the Hawthorne School, and graduated from Western High School, now known as the Duke Ellington School of the Arts. I attended George Washington University, Howard University, and Spelman College with studies in journalism, fine arts, and liberal arts, respectively. The necessity to assist my late mother in her real estate business due to family illness led me to an early age into the realm of real estate. My mother was a highly respected and admired real estate broker in the 1960s, helping to break the proverbial glass ceiling for minority businesswomen in the city. And I'm honored to say that I learned so much from her. She was a great teacher and solid ethical and professional standards, which I hope I have mirrored in my professional life. I learned business acumen, tenacity, and poise from her, and I have had substantial experience in the business arena. I've had over 4 decades of experience in the fields of residential and commercial real estate, to include employment at Independence Federal Savings Bank as a mortgage loan officer, where I originated FHA and conventional mortgages in the DMV area, and I was licensed an independent mortgage broker in the District of Columbia and Maryland, and for a short time operated as such. In prior years, I had the responsibility of overseeing the operation of a boutique real estate firm, including supervising a small staff, the listing and selling of residential and commercial real estate, and providing property management services for a clientele base. In addition to these experiences, I served on the former Real Property Assessments and Appeals Board, and I serve as the chairperson of the Residential Property Committee, all duties providing invaluable experience for this position as a commissioner on the Real Property Tax Appeals Commission. The learning curve is very steep in order to fulfill the multifaceted requirements to serve as commissioner on the Real Property Tax Appeals Commission. I'm aware of the importance of analyzing assessments, appraisals, and income and expense data with diligence, accuracy, and fairness, and I'm aware of the importance of being well-versed in the nuances of the real estate industry. I've authored thousands of decisions during my tenure on the Board of Real Property Assessments Appeals as a member of the Real Property Tax Appeals Commission, and I've always attempted to reach just and fair conclusions without fear or favor. I've included a sampling of decisions that I have written for your review. This position requires a skill set that includes the ability to formulate a decision in a precise and articulate manner. I have a background in journalism, and as a result of my studies at George Washington University, these technical writing skills have assisted me immensely. My professional affiliations include being elected as governor to the Board of Governors for the Women's National Democratic Club, and currently elected and serving as the Director for Development for the Women's National Democratic Club, and serving as an active member of the Greater Capital Area Association of Realtors. In addition, my professional affiliations, I'm a charter member of the National Museum of African American History and Culture's 2015 Society, the Greater Washington Urban League, the Historical Society of Washington, D.C., the D.C. Preservation League, and the White House Historical Society. I've always been passionate about helping others, whether assisting a family finding their dream home or as a loan officer assisting a loan applicant obtain a home loan. I have always hoped that my efforts would help promote the ties that bind within this beloved community and to encourage economic growth in the nation's capital. My volunteer services have included donating to the Central Mission Ministries, volunteering at Grace Church, Georgetown for its Grace's Table Ministry, which volunteers gather on certain Saturdays of each month to assist in providing for, interacting socially with, and feeding the homeless. When the Junior League of Washington, D.C. decided to invite a diversified group of young women to its membership, I was invited to join the volunteer organization. As a former member of the Junior League, I was involved volunteering for the Susan Komen Cancer fundraiser, Race for the Cure, which took place on the National Mall. I've also financially supported the private school, Bishop Walker School for Boys, which is located at the Arc on Mississippi Avenue Southeast. The Bishop Walker School educates boys from underserved communities east of the Anacostia River. I'm an active participant in the ecumenical community, a patron of the arts, and I am involved in philanthropic, charitable, and humanitarian efforts. My hope is, if confirmed, to continue to serve the government and the citizens of this great shining city on the hill with fairness and impartiality, by ensuring that the rights of all petitioners, be they residential or commercial appellants and or citizens with homestead deduction and senior citizen or disabled property owner tax relief issues that come before the commission, will always be treated even-handedly, putting my personal opinions aside, relying on the oath that I hope to take, which will be paramount. I will endeavor to meet your highest expectations with my greatest sense of dignity, decorum, and effort by putting personal opinions aside. The decisions that the Real Property Tax Appeals Commission make have a daily impact on the lives of the district residents of this and the district taxpayers. Finally, the percentage of the real property taxes paid are used to pay the general obligation bonds debt service, and the Real Property Tax Appeals Commission must ensure that the assessment appeals and therefore the tax dollars are honestly and precisely determined. I recently saw a poster that read, "Work hard, stay humble." I am sincerely humbled, joyous, and blessed to be here before you, and I will gladly answer any questions that you may have of me. And I have a witness who wasn't able to log on. She is Wileen Branton Wood, who is the daughter of the late Dean Wiley Branton, who was one of the, worked with Thurgood Marshall on the Brown v. Brown Board of Education. He's also one of the attorneys for the Arkansas 9. So I don't, since she's not on the link, I don't know if I can just put her, if you care to have a word from her, or if she can say good morning to you. I'm sure she would like that. It's up to you, council member.
Thank you for that special note. Yes, I am very open to having a word from her, and we will just take a moment for that. Ms. Simpson, can we let her in to have a word, please?
Ms. Jones, what happened to the link?
She wasn't able to receive it, but if I put my, she's on my phone, I can just put the speaker. I think, Ms. Wood, can you say a word if they can hear you?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Team, can you hear? All right, we all can hear you. Go right ahead, please.
Wonderful. Good morning. I'm so pleased to be with you this morning to make a recommendation for my friend Cliftine Jones. I've known Cliftine for almost 57 years. We were in high school together, we were in college together, and we have maintained our friendship over the many years that have passed. I know her to be very knowledgeable, loyal, and trustworthy. She's very determined, and if she has a job to do, she's going to be very hardworking, and she's going to make that a priority. But she's also very collegial. She's respectful to people, she's compassionate, and she knows how to meet and greet the public so that everyone feels that his or her voice is heard. I think that she will do an outstanding job in this position, and I heartily recommend her.
Well, thank you very much. And would you please submit in writing a statement so we can have it for the record?
I'll be very happy to. Thank you.
All right, you would want to submit your statement to, you can do it by email to housing@dccouncil.us.
Okay, at dccouncil.us.
Yes, and if you would include on it the resolution, which is PR24-0632.
Okay.
All righty. Thank you so very much.
And thank you, Council Member Bonds, for allowing Ms. Wood to speak. Thank you, Ms. Wood.
Thank you. No, we're happy to have the endorsement from any member of the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Jones, I just need to go over a few matters that are our official process. And that is, I want to thank you for your, you completed the questionnaire that we are required to get from you. And I want to thank you so much for that. I would also just want to make sure for the public's benefit that you have indicated as it relates to your, want to make sure we've got everything here. You have answered all of our questions. And the public is always interested in knowing that where we ask, please provide the name of each business entity in which you have a beneficial interest valued in excess of $5,000. and you listed your business as you have spoken to in your testimony. And then it asks for you to provide the name of each business entity from which you or your immediate family have received or are receiving income in excess of $1,000 for services rendered during the past 5 years. And again, you list your real estate brokerage business. And then another area is where we ask you to list the location of any real property in which you have an interest with a fair market value in excess of $5,000. And again, you list your home and you list a rental property. So thank you very much for that. And then we ask you, do you have any outstanding liability for tax fees or other payments to the district, federal, or other state or local governments, either contested or uncontested? And you indicated no. Do you or does any member of your immediate family have any interest financially or otherwise that may directly or indirectly pose a conflict of interest for you in the performance of your duties? And you indicated no. And then on question 13, it's asked, to your knowledge, have you ever been investigated, arrested, charged, or convicted, including pleas of guilty, by any federal, state, or other law enforcement authority for violations of any federal, state, county, or municipal law other than a minor traffic offense? If so, they wanted you to explain, and you indicated no. So I want to thank you very much for a very complete questionnaire.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Councilmember.
All right, and if you will stay with us for a bit, we'll talk to Ms. May, and we'll talk to Mr. Williams, and then we'll just have a series of discussions about moving forward on the commission. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Honorable Bonds. Thank you.
All right. Next, we will hear from, we'll hear from Ms. May S. Chang, who is nominated for the Real Property Tax Appeals Commission. And you'll find that information under PR 24-0633. The Real Property Tax Appeals Commission, May S. Chang, confirmation resolution of 2022. So Ms. Chang, please go forward, and we're ready to hear your testimony. And thank you again for being here today. You are, you mute. Okay. Okay, now we can hear you. All right, thank you.
Okay, good morning,
Good morning.
Chairwoman Bonds, committee staff, and members of the council. My name is May Chan. I want to thank you for holding a hearing on my nomination for another term as a full-time commissioner on the Real Property Tax Appeals Commission. I also want to thank Mayor Muriel Bowser for nominating me for another term on RIPTAC, on which I have served as a full-time commissioner since its inception on July 16, 2012. I was also an active working member of the Board of Real Property Tax Appeals, Assessment and Appeals, beginning in 2005. I have heard and decided on over 8,000 cases during the last 16 years and have firsthand knowledge about how the real estate market reacted during the pandemic and when the real estate market experienced the economic upswing, downturn, and upswing again. I'm also fully aware and have a deep understanding of the importance of the challenge the district faces with real property tax assessments. It has been my pleasure to serve as a member of the Real Property Tax Appeals Commission for the last 10 years. I'm proud of the contribution that I have made to the commission and look forward to the opportunity of facilitating and advancing the commission as it continues to grow. The experience I have gained on the Board of Real Property Assessment and Appeals, in addition to the work I have done on the commission, had made me a strong commissioner. I was initially appointed to BRPA by Mayor Anthony Williams because of my expertise in real estate project management as a real estate investor and developer in the private sector, and my experience as an elected member of the Chinatown South Cove Neighborhood Council in the city of Boston, where I reviewed proposals for development projects and conducted hearings to include community inputs on both local and citywide issues. In addition, I have been actively involved in various planning initiatives, such as the Comprehensive Plan and the Chinatown Cultural Development Strategic Plan, while serving on the Chinatown's Steering Committee and as a member of the Committee of 100 on the Federal City. I have been a resident of the District of Columbia for over 20 years, since July 1st, 1999. I first settled in Ward 2 and was immediately tapped to be a member of the Chinatown Steering Committee, overseeing design review and for various development projects, and on the board of the Shore Community Development Fund and the Convention Center Hotel Ad Hoc Subcommittee. Although I have moved from Ward 2 to Ward 6, I continue being involved. I serve on the board of the Mount Vernon Triangle Community Improvement District and as second vice president of Mount Vernon Triangle Neighborhood Association. My vision for RIPTAC is to ensure the equal sharing of the tax burden by the real property owners in the District of Columbia and the legislatively granted benefits of the homeowners in the District of Columbia. Homestead deduction and senior tax benefits are not denied to any deserving applicants. I have the experience, training, and knowledge necessary for the commission to preside over formal hearings of complex commercial and residential property assessment appeals. I bring to RIPTAC very distinct qualities that are valuable to the team serving the District of Columbia. My reappointment to the RIPTAC would maintain the appropriate level of consistency and continuity required for the sound and fiscal and fiduciary responsibilities of the commission. I would very much like to continue serving in my capacity as a full-time member of the commission. I'm available to address any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony as well, Ms. Chang. And so I will just firstly thank you for your documentation. And I will just read from a few of the items that the public always has an interest in. Please list the location of any real property in which you have an interest with a fair market value in excess of $5,000. You put NA, you do not have it. So that's number one. It then asks, do you have any outstanding liability for taxes and fees or other payments to the district, federal, or other state or local governments, either contested or uncontested? And your response is no. Do you or does members of your immediate family have any interest? And of course, you NA. And to your knowledge, have you ever been investigated, arrested, charged, or convicted, including plea of guilty by any federal, state, or other law enforcement authority for violations of any federal, state, county, or municipal law other than a minor traffic offense? And you indicate no. And so I want to thank you for your questionnaire, which is also a part of the record. And if you'll hold on, we'll talk to Mr. Williams, and then we'll talk a little bit about the extensive background that each of you brings to the table, and fill us up with vision for how we should handle taxes coming into the future. And if you want to, you can even talk about what you think the goals should be for the Tax Revision Commission that we just empowered a few weeks ago. So thank you very much. And now we will turn to Mr. Trent Williams. This is PR 24-0634, the Real Property Tax Appeals Commission Trent Williams Confirmation Resolution of 2022. And so, Mr. Williams, we will take your testimony at this time, and thank you for being here this morning.
Well, thanks for having me. Good morning, Honorable Council Member Bonds and members of the committee. Thank you for this opportunity. I would like to also thank the Honorable Mayor Mario Bowser for this nomination. I've been a resident of the district for almost 25 years. I received my Bachelor of Science degree in Commerce at the University of Virginia in 1994, with a double major in Finance and Marketing and a minor in Spanish, while I took part in the exchange program at La Universidad de Valencia. I then attended the College of William and Mary School of Law and Graduate Business School, where I received my joint JD MBA degrees in December of 1997. Since moving to Washington, D.C. in 1998, I've advised clients on real estate, investment, and business transactions. Initially a member of the Board of Real Property Assessments and Appeals since 2009, I was appointed to the Real Property Tax Appeals Commission, RIPTAC, in 2012. I recently was appointed as the interim chairperson for RIPTAC in November of 2021. I'm happy to report that my experience, leadership, and team approach have proven beneficial to the commission over this most recent appeal season. I work closely with commissioners and staff to implement strategies and procedures to reach specific goals and accomplishments this hearing season. We worked on opportunities such as hearing preparation, worksheet calculations, and detailed decision writing. Most important, RIPTAC completed all scheduled hearings by the February 1st deadline. This was a huge accomplishment, especially compared to last year when COVID posed an operational working challenge and RIPTAC missed the deadline. Commissioners and staff are proud of this meeting this obligation again, and only within a year. As you all may know, the learning curve in understanding commission's work is steep. I am blessed to have the knowledge and expertise in the real estate industry, commission procedures, and I'm familiar with the public's concerns. This knowledge allows me to work fairly and efficiently. And just as importantly, this knowledge allows me to train and prepare commissioners for the same. In addition to my real estate background, my knowledge and expertise in statistics and quantitative analyses prove beneficial to ensure fair, consistent, and data-driven decisions. I recently trained a fellow commissioner on certain advanced statistical analysis tools, which is highly valuable during the appeals process. Specific knowledge in the Excel format, equation formation, and assessment calculations have proven beneficial for the commission. This training and mentorship comes easily for me, as I've had the opportunity to work closely with past chairpersons and vice chairpersons for more than 10 years. I've recently trained commissioners and provided tools to better assist in the preparation for each and every RIPTAC appeals case. I've found that preparation is key in order to give parties fairness throughout the appeals process. Parties deserve a commission that takes time to prepare for hearings, deliberations, and decision drafting sessions. I've led the way to create a professional atmosphere for all parties involved in the RIPTAC appeals process. During each hearing and throughout the appeals process, all parties should feel comfortable, understand the process and calculations, and receive a fair outcome. And working on options for training and community outreach to create a better understanding of the RIPTAC processes and procedures. I am committed to the district residents and property owners to have an opportunity to better understand the assessment process and the appeals process. In summation, I am grateful for the kind words, positive acknowledgements, and support of the RIPTAC Vice Chairman Amato, petitioners, Office of Tax and Revenue representatives, and other commissioners during my term at RIPTAC as interim chairperson. Under my leadership, RIPTAC will continue to deliver fair, professional, and knowledge-based decisions for the District of Columbia. I am sincerely thankful for the nomination from the Honorable Mayor Bowser and for this opportunity to serve our great city, and to this Honorable Council for its consideration. I am available to address any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Williams. And again, thank you as well for your completed questionnaire, which we give to all nominees for commissions in the District of Columbia. And again, I'll just quickly go through a few items that the public always seems to have an interest in. Do you have any outstanding liability for tax fees and other payments to the district, federal, or payments, either contested or uncontested? And you indicated no. Do you or any member of your family have an interest financially or otherwise that may directly or indirectly pose a conflict of interest for you in the performance of your duties? Your answer is no. And of course, to your knowledge, have you ever been investigated, arrested, charged, or convicted, including pleas of guilty by any federal, state, or other law enforcement authority for violations of any federal, state, county, or municipal law other than a minor traffic offense? And you answered no. Let's see, and another one, have you ever been investigated, disciplined, or cited for a breach of ethics for unprofessional conduct by or been the subject of a complaint to any court, administrative agency, professional association, disciplinary committee, or other professional group? And your answer was no. And let's see, I think there's one other. I think that's it. Those are the ones that we usually check them, that the public is most interested in. And so I thank you very much for those answers. Before we get into a little chat about the commission and its work and what you bring to the table and hope to see moving forward in the future, I want to acknowledge that a member of our committee, Councilmember Silverman, has joined us, and so I'd give her a moment to make a few remarks at this time. Councilmember Silverman, if you are available. Well,
Maybe she stepped away.
yes, exactly. So let's talk tax appeals and how that's working. Let me start by asking, have any conflicts of interest or appearance of a conflict of interest arisen during your tenure on the commission? And if so, how have you approached this situation?
Well,
And I'll ask all three nominees.
Personally, I have not had any conflicts of interest with cases, but I have witnessed where past commissioners have decided it's in their best interest to not hear a case. And so we have been fortunate that our commissioners are forthcoming if they have any past relationship to a property. And with that being said, if they feel there would be a conflict, they would step to the side and another commissioner would take their place.
All right. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Because of your long tenure, you might want to share.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Bond. So I have, because of my longstanding business affiliations, have had to recuse myself on not many cases, but more than once, I believe, because I believed it would be a conflict since I may have known the person or had prior business affiliations. But it's rare, but I have recused myself.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chan, you've had long history looking at tax bills. We can't hear you. You're, okay. Thank you.
Just like the other two commissioners, I don't really have any cases that I have a conflict of interest, but even if the slightest appearance of property, sometimes that I have a lot of knowledge about, because serving on the Chinatown Steering Committee when a lot of development were happening in the downtown Chinatown area, I would recuse myself.
All right, thank you. Now, are there any potential conflicts of interest that you expect that may arise as we go forward?
No,
Mr. Williams, okay.
no, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Okay. Let's talk about each of you, your top 3 accomplishments during your tenure, current tenure on the commission. And we'll start with Ms. Jones.
Thank you, Honorable Bonds. I believe I've been dependable. I haven't really even taken a vacation because we had a shortage, the pandemic and other instances required that I keep working. So I think I'm reliable. I think I'm diligent. When you say 3 top accomplishments, I believe it's just my best sincere effort to accomplish the difficult task at hand. I don't think people realize how difficult it is to analyze these, especially on commercial properties, to analyze the, it's almost subjective. One person may feel that a certain input for analysis is correct, yet let's say the government feels that the vacancy is another percentage. So they're minute changes that can affect a property by millions of dollars. So one has to, I believe, be very wise, specific, and analyze to get to the truth as best as possible. So I think that's an accomplishment, that I am diligent in just not accepting, and I think all of us try. I mean, I believe that, but I think that one of my proudest accomplishments is that I try to be exceptionally fair.
Okay. Ms. Chen, just wanted to ask you, do you have any opinion as to whether or not the commercial tax bills are exorbitant?
Well, everything's relative, right? To the city, it may not be enough, but for the petitioner, it certainly is too much. Okay, I think, I can only say that my background and my education, that I have a master's degree in business administration. And so I am very knowledgeable in terms of the valuation. And plus, I also add on to my real life experience in real estate development, starting in 1980s when I did a residential subdivision in Weston. And I also, in my capacity in serving on the Chinatown South Code Committee, I learned a lot of with developments that use the block grant, the SHOP program, and also I'm familiar with the EB5 program. I think I'm one of the commissioners that have that additional knowledge. And so I, with the commercial property community, I think it's important to listen to them and also understand the challenges that they're facing, and especially as we all know, the district has a lot of developments in the last 10 years. And so a lot of them come in front of us have very complex situation.
Well, thank you. Mr. Williams, you're hearing from your commissioners, fellow commissioners, saying this is complex, complex, complex. And you've just informed us that you have been very instructional for your commissioners. Tell us a little more about that. What I am trying to do is to open the window on this thing called our taxes, because many do not understand why I'll be very colloquial here, why the dirt in Ward 8 is not the same value as the dirt in Ward 3 or Ward 2. So talk to us.
Definitely. Thank you for the question. And I think what I heard from both commissioners is all about fairness. And so at the end of the day, we have to be fair to all property owners in the District of Columbia. The simplest way I can explain it is actually one of our guiding lights, and that is a willing buyer and a willing seller. If you have a willing buyer and a willing seller, and their desire is to purchase a property for a certain value, and then we find that the property right next door is exactly the same, then that is true market value. And so when our property owners and residents sit back and think about what we do, first and foremost, we have to understand that the Office of Tax and Revenue, their value is presumed to be correct. And so from the starting point, the burden is on the petitioner, the property owner, to show how the Office of Tax and Revenue has erred. If the Office of Tax and Revenue, for example, comes in and they have a sale that is the exact same type of property as the subject property, then that value is the market value. And it's very tough for this commission to go against rulings of the court, past rulings of the commission, and say that, well, a willing buyer, a willing seller came to this value, but we're going to do something different. What we're trying to do is be fair. And let's think of it even further. It would be unfair for us to give one property owner a lower value when the exact same property next door is assessed at a higher value. And so we're also trying to be equitable. So I hope that's helpful.
Yes, it is. And I guess my follow-up is, how do you account for depreciation? How do you account for the situation we currently are faced, where many of our commercial real estate enterprises are vacant, not in use, particularly in our downtown area? And so those tax bills, are they naturally lowered now, or what is the magic about the dirt that they sit on?
Well, great question again, but I'll give one example that I want all of us in this hearing to think about, but also those who may listen. Just because potentially that property is vacant, if the lease is still being paid for, then the numbers haven't changed. I'll say that again. So someone might not be going into the office, but if the lease is being paid fully, then the numbers may not change, because from an assessment standpoint, the property is not vacant. The lease is still being paid, even though no one is going through the front door. So let's kind of get that out of the way. At the same time, as we spoke about earlier, we have equations. We have ways to get to the bottom line of how vacancy may impact a property, of how rents, expenses, and other costs or incomes will impact a property. And so what we're trying to do, again, is start from where the Office of Tax and Revenue has started, and let's see, are there any errors? Have they made enough adjustments to the vacancy rate to let us understand, well, how does that vacancy impact this property? Okay, and so we are looking at those numbers and dissecting them to make sure that, yes, if there's a vacancy issue, then we want to make sure that there are adjustments made. If we find that there are no vacancy issues, especially vacancy issues that have gone on for several years, then there may not be a true impact to the valuation. But we are looking at those numbers. We are trying to make adjustments to make sure that any impact, whether it's from COVID, whether it's just because of the industry, they are being addressed. And that's what this commission does at the second level.
Well, thank you for that response. And so it leads me to then ask a little bit about the authority that you have to make adjustments for blighted property in particular, where individuals, the owners, can petition directly to the Appeals Commission. Tell me a little bit about that and how that's done. I'm back to, being an old chemistry person. I'm intrigued by formulas and equations. So,
well, thanks again for the question. With blighted properties, again, whether it is whatever agency has, the agency that has designated your property as blighted, the presumption is that they are correct. And so we have to find, was there some sort of error or something missed by this agency? With that being said, as we all know, usually you have an opportunity to rectify your blighted situation. And so what this commission wants to see is that, one, you rectified the situation in a timely manner. Two, you weren't taking advantage of any of the laws or the procedures of this agency. In other words, we don't want bad actors to benefit, but we also don't want good actors to be punished. And so we are taking a look at what activity took place over that tax year. What dates can you show me? What dates can the property owner prove that they took action to rectify the blighted situation? Or was there an exemption that was filed for timely? And so there are ways to avoid the blighted status, but it's up to the property owner to prove that they made the effort and didn't try to get around the laws. They made the effort to put their property out of blighted status. And if we see that, the fair result is that we would remove them from blighted status.
all right. And so, that's a very important area because actually we now have a process where individually the owners can declare the condition of their property. So it's self, evident. And so I'm very interested in how we are proceeding with that. Again, because the dirt is the dirt. And so how do we manage this? So I appreciate your comments this morning on that. Okay, I think you've talked to us about what residents can do who may be assessed an incorrect tax amount, because you start with, let's find the error if there is an error. So I appreciate that. What is the level of outreach that your agency is doing to notify the public that you're there and that, this is the last stop on the appeals process for those who really believe they have an error?
We have in the past gone to ANC meetings and given presentations to let the public know what we do and where we are and how to get in touch with us. We are actually the second level of appeal, but if they don't agree with our decision, they can go to Superior Court. With that being said, we are looking at other outreach efforts, looking at different entities that might specifically address certain areas such as the elderly, homeowners, looking at different private entities that may have an outreach to folks to let them know exactly what we do. And so that's what we're looking into now, but we will continue to go into different ANCs to speak to the property owners, but we hope to, in a sense, do more this coming year.
All right, well, thank you. Can you, this is very important, very strategic. What is the formula to determine a real property tax bill? For transparency's sake, let's talk about that for a minute.
So the formula is, again, dividing by 100 and then multiplying by the tax burden. With that being said, there may be other discounts or benefits that someone may have based on their age, if it's their homestead, whatever the case might be. What I do want to let everyone know is that we, as a commission, are most involved with the assessment, not the tax bill. And so if someone comes into our office and they are arguing about the tax bill, that is not something that we necessarily take up in our hearings. We are here to talk about the assessment, the value of your property. Tax bills are dealt with by another agency. And so I'll just put that out there that we're mainly focused on the assessment, not the tax bill.
All right. Well, I wanted that on the record because people always mix the two. Mm-hmm. And it all translates to dollars and cents. So
yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So thank you very much for that. Ms. Chang or Ms. Jones, do you have anything you want to add this morning?
Well, I would just once again thank you for your very specific questions. They hopefully will shed a light on what goes on. We're an independent agency. We do not, as the chairman said, we do not have anything to do with the billing. Yet I'm concerned about the seniors who are in neighborhoods where there has been such a huge appreciation, maybe 20% within the last year of value. And it affects because the office tax revenue is assessing via mass appraisal process. So the homeowners that have been there 30, 40, 50 years, second, third generations, are feeling the pinch. Now the homestead helps, the senior citizen helps, but if there could be some carve out for some of these people who are really financially impaired by these completely, with interest rates at 0% for 2 or 3 years, of course, these $1 million properties become $1.2 million, $1.5 million, $2 million. It's incredible. All the way east to Deanwood, areas that wonderfully are being redeveloped. But again, the families that have been there, multi-generational families are hurting. And it's if there could be some carve out, I don't know what it would be, but the council could possibly consider something to give assistance to those families. So.
Thank you for that. I do have a thought about that, as you well know. Over the years, have been working on this very specific area. So I would like to come and talk with the commission about some of this, but I can tell you that it seems to me that properties that are deeded are owned by our long-term residents, that are on very fixed incomes, limited incomes, that maybe their maybe their property is taken out of the process, sort of like paused. And then at the time that the property changes hands, then yes, whomever are the purchasers, perhaps it will escalate, or the heirs will be faced with, an increased, I'll say benefit, but we will have additional opportunities to assist heirs in particular. So I want to talk to you about that. I have some ideas. I appreciate you putting that on the table. Better said by you than by me, who says it all the time. So
Well,
thank you.
Well, thank you.
We would
Yes.
love to have the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. Miss Chen, you're trying to say something, I believe. Okay, great.
Okay. Yes, I think my colleague has adequately covered most of the scenario. And I'm most pleased that Councilwoman Anita Bond, that you are going to make yourself available and come to the commissions. And we look forward to it. And I'm sure that we have a lot of issues that we can cover, and hopefully we'll have a better solution for them.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I've been there before, you know that, of course, but
Yes,
yes,
you
I'm
have.
looking, under the new leadership, I'm looking forward to having an opportunity to visit with you. And let's just, paper and pencil equations and formulas, and let's get this town moving in the right direction for
Yes.
those that need it the most.
Yes.
So
Thank you. With you there, we will. I'll
thank
never
you very
forget
much.
that veteran who lost his property because of $75 on a tax sale.
Oh
and
my,
and
that
you
was,
changed that.
yes,
You made
yes.
that law so that wouldn't happen again.
Yes, yes. And that was my first venture as a council member, and it really struck hard in the heart. Yes, yeah,
Yes.
yes.
So thank
That
you.
should never happen, never happen. And I think the story was that he was sitting on a neighbor's porch watching the signs go up on what was his home a few months before. So
And a veteran of all things, a veteran.
exactly. So thank you for the memory. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
And thank you all very much for your testimony today, and look forward to following up with you. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. We will now turn our attention to the two nominees for the District of Columbia Housing Authority Board of Commissioners, Ms. Melissa Lee, PR 24-0655, and Mr. Edward Fisher, PR 24-0647. And we will bring them into the room. Thank you. I see Mr. Fisher, and Ms. Lee has joined us as well. We will swear you in anticipating your testimony. So if you would raise your right hand. All right. Do you swear and affirm that your testimony and any statements that you make before us today to be truthful and complete?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you. As we move on to the two DC Housing Authority Board of Commissioners nominations, I wanted to just very quickly review with the public the basic facts about the District of Columbia Housing Authority. It is an independent government agency with the main objective of providing quality, affordable housing to extremely low and moderately low income households, fostering sustainable communities and culminating in opportunities for residents to improve their lives. This agency serves over 50,000 qualified low-income residents through traditional public housing, tenant and project-based housing vouchers, and mixed income properties. And I want to add that the District of Columbia government is the only local entity in the United States that also applies local dollars to the repairs of their public housing stock. We are the only entity in the United States of America that does that. And so that's a tribute to the taxpayers of the District of Columbia and the spirit by which and the values that we observe. So I just wanted to put that on the record. The District of Columbia Housing Authority Board of Commissioners is a 13-member governing body consisting of community and business leaders within the district. The body includes 4 public commissioners, 3 elected public housing resident commissioners, 1 housing choice voucher program recipient commissioner, 1 ex officio commissioner who is the deputy mayor for planning and economic development, 1 labor representative commissioner, and 1 housing advocacy representative commissioner, and 2 commissioners, 1 nominated by the mayor and 1 appointed by the council, who are not employed by the housing authority to serve as representatives with specific professional expertise in designing and developing public and private multifamily housing. And so today, the board is charged with the duty to govern all of the affairs of the housing authority, including but not limited to reviewing and approving contracts for goods and services, implementing appropriate rules and regulations necessary for the effective administration of the housing authority, and performing any other necessary functions to ensure the provision of quality services to the residents of the various properties. In understanding the critical roles of the Board of Commissioners, I very much am looking forward to hearing how each nominee intends to improve the board, the work that they may be currently doing as a member of the board, and their priorities as we move the city forward, and with it, we move successful public housing models. Our first Board of Commissioners nominee is Ms. Melissa Lee, that many of us are familiar with, as she is a current member of the Board of Commissions. Her nomination was introduced on the 24th of March, 2022 at the request of the mayor, and it was referred to the committee in April 5, 2022. Ms. Lee was initially nominated on February 17, 2022 for reappointment as a public commissioner for a term to end on July 12, 2025. However, this nomination was withdrawn on March 1 so that she could subsequently be nominated for a new position that was created through the FY22 Budget Support Act of 2021. In FY 2022, the Budget Support Act of 21, the council created a position for the Board of Commissions that specifically specifies a member with professional expertise in designing and developing public and private multifamily housing. Ms. Lee was nominated on March 24, 2022 by the mayor for appointment as a member in this new position to end on July 12, 2025. As a current Ward 4 resident and certified treasury professional, Ms. Lee has most recently served as Senior Vice President of Capital and Investments at McKinney Group, where she manages sources of capital that are deployed into real estate investments. Prior to her role at the group, Ms. Lee served as founder and managing principal of Lee Squared Consulting Group, where she delivers strategies that optimize an organization's financial and capital structure. Additionally, Ms. Lee has served 10 years as the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority, where she directed the implementation of Treasury strategies. And now I'll turn to our next Board of Commissioners nominee, Mr. Edward Fisher. Mr. Fisher's nomination was introduced on March 21, 2022 at the request of the mayor. Mr. Fisher is nominated for appointment as a public commissioner. He would in fact be replacing Ms. Melissa Lee to complete the remainder of her term that again would end on July 12, 2022. Additionally, Mr. Fisher is nominated for appointment as public commissioner to serve a new term which will end on July 12, 2025. Mr. Fisher, a native Washingtonian and a current Ward 7 resident, is a community government affairs and real estate professional with experience in both public and private sectors. As the former executive director of St. Elizabeth's East Development, Mr. Fisher managed and supervised all aspects of the largest real estate development project in the district, which includes 252 affordable housing units, over 100 townhomes, and large office buildings. Mr. Fisher also serves as Director of Community Affairs for Care First Blue Cross Blue Shield, where he maintained and fostered and enhanced relationships with local governments and community partners. So those are our two nominees today. And so we will begin with testimony from Ms. Lee and followed by Mr. Fisher. And so, Ms. Lee, we're ready when you are to receive your testimony.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
So good morning, Chairperson Bonds, members of the Committee on Housing and Executive Administration, and staff. My name is Melissa Lee, and I would like to thank you for holding today's hearing to consider my nomination for the District of Columbia Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. I would also like to thank Mayor Bowser for nominating me to this board. I'm currently a resident of Washington, D.C., and I've resided in the metropolitan area for over 25 years. I completed my Bachelor of Business Administration and Finance at the University of the District of Columbia and my MBA with a concentration in Finance and Investments at George Washington University. I also hold the Certified Treasury Professional designation, which is granted by the Association for Financial Professionals. Currently, I serve as the Senior Vice President of Capital and Investments at the Minkiti Group, with the responsibility for structuring and growing the capital and investment platform. My role focuses on aligning internal and external sources of equity capital for deployment into community-based mixed-use projects. Our goal is to identify opportunities in emerging neighborhoods located in cities with strong macroeconomic trends where redevelopment can reawaken vibrant communities. Prior to joining the Minkiti Group, I served as the founder and managing principal of Lee Squared Consulting Group, where I delivered advisory and analytical strategies that optimized organizations' financial and capital structures. My primary engagement included work with a community development corporation. I delivered organizational financial management strategies that created greater budget and reporting transparency for the multifamily real estate portfolio and community development block grant program. These two activities served as my foundational work in understanding the role of community redevelopment, as well as an introduction to the tools and resources that could be combined to create impact and sustainable communities. Previously, I've held a range of finance positions that include overseeing the real estate asset class for the Maryland State Retirement and Pension System, and serving as a trustee on 4 Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority's employee retirement plans. In addition, I've served in Treasury and investment positions at Amtrak, Pepco Holdings, and Chevy Chase Bank, which was acquired by Capital One. Serving as a commissioner of the District of Columbia Housing Authority Board provides an opportunity for me to contribute my expertise and a capacity that will support the goal of preserving and developing communities that promote quality, affordable housing in the district. My professional experiences are deeply informed by financial management practices that require stewardship of public and private assets and is often intersected with community impact. My various roles have equipped me with the knowledge that lends itself to supporting the District of Columbia Housing Authority's objectives with an emphasis on fostering sustainable communities. The Board of Commissioners is a diverse body of thoughts and experiences that have an opportunity to come together to support the goals of the Executive Director, as well as advance the deployment of financial and operating resources for the Housing Authority residents. During my career, I've had the pleasure
My apologies, Ms. Lee, you appear to have been muted.
During my career, I've had the pleasure to work for organizations that provide a community benefit, from utilities to transit to education and community redevelopment. In this phase of my career, I'm focused on community redevelopment through the investment of mixed-use real estate in underserved and overlooked neighborhoods in various cities, including Washington, D.C. My goal, if confirmed as a commissioner, would be to extend this focus to promote the building of vibrant communities for the residents of DCHA by supporting the maintenance and redevelopment of DCHA's housing stock. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for your testimony, and we'll now turn to Mr. Fisher for your testimony.
Good morning, Chairperson Bonds, council members, and staff. It's my pleasure to testify before the Committee on Housing and Executive Administration on my nomination to the District of Columbia Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. I would like to thank you, Chairperson Bonds, for holding this roundtable today, and I'd also like to thank Mayor Bowser for nominating me for such an important role. My name is Ed Fisher. I am a father and soon-to-be husband again. I am a native Washingtonian, proud alum of the DC Public School Systems as a graduate of Eastern Senior High and lifelong Ward 7 resident. I earned a degree in business management from Hampton University and my law degree from Catholic University. I also received a certificate of corporate social responsibility from Johns Hopkins University. As a native Washingtonian, I believe that other native Washingtonians, regardless of income, should be able to live and thrive in our city. Service on this board will allow me to offer my skills and abilities to assist in developing livable housing to support healthy and sustainable communities. I would like to continue some of the plans that I started when I worked for the council as a staffer and see them to completion as a commissioner. My passion for youth development has also led me to volunteer for numerous organizations in DC. Most notably, I served as the chair of the board of the DC Promise Neighborhood Initiative, a mentor for the Lifting As We Climb Foundation, advisory board member for Girls on the Run DC, and I had the honor of being named Uptown Magazine's Community Leader of the Year in 2012. I currently serve as the Assistant Vice President of Community and Government Relations at American University. In this role, I manage our engagement and partnerships with neighboring communities, nonprofit organizations, and the federal and local governments, in addition to overseeing our campus planning process. I lead our Office of Community Affairs. I analyze and advocate on local legislation and spearhead our partnership efforts and our strategic plan around our connection with DC and the region. Recently, I successfully led the university through the campus plan process before the DC Zoning Commission, which received unanimous approval in July of 2021 and a final order in April of 2022. In my current role at AU, I oversee the development of the campus. I've also been involved with the planning of our residential, academic, and athletic facilities in our 2021 campus plan. While student housing is not the same as affordable or public housing, it has given me additional experience in residential planning. I've learned that the needs and desires of the residents should always be a top priority. I've learned to listen, I've learned to understand. Prior to joining AU, I was the executive director of the St. Elizabeth's East Development in Ward 8. On behalf of DMPED, I provided executive project management of infrastructure construction, the entertainment and sports arena, and the beginning phases of 252 units of affordable housing. We made a concentrated effort to ensure that lower income residents were able to secure apartments and home ownership opportunities on the historic campus. We engaged with local community development organizations to work with residents to prepare them for obtaining the units. I also managed high dollar contracts from drafting to solicitation, evaluation, awarding, and implementation. I will bring that previous experience to this board so that we can quickly but responsibly approve contracts that allow us to meet our targets and deadlines. I also spent more than 6 years at the Council of the District of Columbia, where I served in numerous roles in the Ward 7 Council office, including Chief of Staff, Legislative Director, Legislative Counsel, and Committee Director. When working for the then Ward 7 Council member Yvette Alexander, I drafted legislation that facilitated the development of 4800 Nanny Helen Burroughs Avenue, which included 70 affordable housing units, 23 of which were replacement housing for Lincoln Heights under the New Communities Initiative. I also drafted legislation and worked with developers on the Metro Towns development, which was formerly known as Parkside Addition in the Mayfair Parkside community. This project delivered 125 new units and provided home ownership opportunities to former Parkside Addition residents. It has been a privilege and an honor to serve in these roles on behalf of the residents of my hometown. Prior to my time in DC government, I worked in the federal government as a paralegal specialist and in the financial services sector as a bank manager. I spent the bulk of my career at the DC Council working on legislation and policies that were designed to benefit Washington, DC as a whole, but with a specific focus on residents in Ward 7 and Ward 8. I will continue to work on behalf of DC residents who need our support the most. As we begin to transition to a post-pandemic world, providing safe and affordable housing to our low and moderately income residents is of vital importance. I grew up in the Deanwood community east of the river and currently live in the Eastern Gardens neighborhood. Both neighborhoods have historically been home to public housing developments such as Lincoln Heights and Kenilworth Courts. Residents of these communities have been and are my neighbors, colleagues, mentors, and friends. Many of them have waited several years to experience the rebirth and renaissance of their neighborhoods. The stated goal of the Housing Authority is to make sure that residents have the right to return to their communities post-construction. I will work with the board and the director to ensure that policies are implemented and executed to honor that commitment. Under the leadership of Director Brenda Donald, the Housing Authority is moving in the right direction. As a member of this board, I plan to support her leadership and the mission of providing quality, affordable housing, fostering sustainable and safe communities, and cultivating opportunities for residents to improve their lives and contribute to the vibrancy of the city. It is my hope that with the arrival of new board members, we can all provide a fresh perspective and shared insight with long-serving commissioners. I'm looking forward to rolling up my sleeves and serving alongside my fellow commissioners. I will actively listen to the concerns of the resident commissioners with the intention of understanding and empathy. This board should be focused on holding the staff accountable for renovating and fixing existing units as quickly as possible. The commission should not waste time by slowing down approvals of development deals except as needed for prudent oversight. I am a firm believer that time is always of the essence and swift action must be taken to support and strengthen the lives of the approximately 50,000 people that live in Housing Authority communities. As I mentioned before, every resident should have access to safe and affordable housing. The board must act swiftly and efficiently in concert with staff to bring our units up to a standard worthy of our families' needs and desires. The commission and leadership should remain committed to earning and maintaining the trust of our residents. I would like to close by again thanking you, Councilmember Bonds and Mayor Bowser, for this opportunity. Public service is important to me as I have spent more than half of my professional career involved in some way. This role in the DC Housing Authority Board of Commissioners stands to be one of the most challenging yet, but also one of the most important. If my nomination is approved by this esteemed council, I will put forth my best effort to work in the best interests of all DC residents, especially those who need it most. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Fisher. And I'll start with you. I think we want to go through the questions just to make sure. You are new to the commission. We have done this with Ms. Lee in the past, so I'll just do it very quickly with you. Number 11, do you have any outstanding liability for taxes, fees, and other payments to the district, federal, or other states or local governments, either contested or uncontested? And your answer was no. Do you or does any member of your immediate family have any interest, financial or otherwise, that may directly or indirectly pose a conflict of interest for you in performing your duties? And you indicated no. And to your knowledge, have you ever been investigated, arrested, charged, or convicted, including plea of guilty, by any federal, state, or other law enforcement authority for violations of any federal, state, county, or municipal law other than a minor traffic offense? And your answer is no. And have you ever been investigated, disciplined, or cited for a breach of ethics for unprofessional conduct by or have been the subject of a complaint to any court, administrative agency, professional association, disciplinary committee, or other professional group? And your answer is no. And then we did ask you, please list all gifts, donations, and meals by source and amount received or made to any district employee over the last 10 years. And if employed by the district now or in the past, list all gifts, including meals received in your official capacity over the last 10 years while employed by the district government, and you have none. Okay, am I correct? Okay,
That's
all right.
correct.
Just, the public always is very interested in responses to these questions. And so I like as much as possible to put them on the record. The nominees that come before this committee traditionally have provided the answers in advance, but I just wanted to make sure that I state for the record that we have your information, and thank you very much. And of course, Ms. Lee, you bothered to do another questionnaire, and so we thank you again. It's smart to update it because we're very interested in making sure that everyone is in compliance and is comfortable with the work that they have before them, responding to the citizens of the District of Columbia. So thank you very much for that. And I am quickly trying to find my questions, but I'll start with you, Mr. Fisher. Your statement is very interesting because your statement gives us a strong sense that you've been here before, that you have a clear understanding of the goals and objectives that are before a commissioner. And so when you said, for instance, that, let's talk a little bit about this history. You said you successfully led the American University through the campus plan project before the Zoning Commission, which received unanimous approval in July of 2021. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you translate that skill set to the role as a commissioner on the Housing Authority?
Sure. Thank you, Councilmember Bonds. I think my experience at AU in managing the campus process was really about learning and utilizing my skills in planning. It was really heavy on project management. We have a lot of different sites on the campus that we are looking to develop or redevelop. But another piece of that was community outreach. And that was probably the biggest part of my job, was to do the community outreach. We created organizations and entities that were designed specifically for that, to make sure that the neighbors in and around American University were up to speed about what we were planning. We got their feedback. I presented at countless ANC meetings. We hosted countless community meetings so that everyone is aware of the impacts of what we were proposing to do would have on them as our neighbors. This was a roughly 3-year process that entailed many different demographics that we had to engage with, many different stakeholders. We had to talk to not only the neighbors, but also the students, the faculty, the staff, and upper level administration. And so it gave me an opportunity to hear many diverse perspectives, to see how each project would impact those different stakeholders. And I believe that bringing that experience to the DC Housing Authority would be of great value.
Thank you very much for your response. You also indicated your passion for youth development. How can that translate to work on the commission?
Sure. Well, again, that is a personal passion of mine, and something that I just like to do with my personal time, because I am committed to this city. Again, I am a native Washingtonian, born and raised here. I have 2 young sons who I'm raising here in this city, and how we interact with our youth is indicative of the success of our communities. I know that there are many youth and children who live in our DC Housing Authority communities, and if we can figure out ways to implement the right type of programming into everything that we do, ultimately it will be successful for us. I think that giving these young people opportunities, giving them people that they can look up to, people that they can talk to about what's going on in their lives and what's going on in this world is going to be highly beneficial for the overall sustainability and success of our properties and communities.
All right, so then as a follow-up, do you see yourself as initiating some youth development activities as a board member? Is that, or?
I would certainly be interested in working on those type of initiatives. I would talk to Director Donald, and other staff members at the DC Housing Authority to see what's existing. I'll have to take a look and see what programs might be in place now to see how we can partner with other organizations that are already doing this work. But I would love to be a part of one of those types of initiatives at the Housing Authority.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fisher. And to Ms. Lee and to Mr. Fisher, I wanted to follow up on this point that you've made, Mr. Fisher, and that is to assist in developing livable housing to support healthy and sustainable communities. How do you see the board doing that? Usually boards, commissions are busy with making sure that the T is crossed, the I is dotted, that all of the math is correct on contracts, et cetera, and that the goals are clearly delineated and that there is a follow-up and monitoring process. So how do we get to really building up and improving, expanding the portfolio for persons who are living in and on our properties and who are also on vouchers in our community, that 50,000. Do you have some thoughts on that? Ms. Lee, we'll let you go first. Mr. Fisher has been yapping with me a lot here.
Sure. Thank you. I think, one of the advantages, I've only had 5 meetings under my belt, but one of the things that I really appreciate about this experience right now, there's a new executive director and she's looking at how to do things differently. And she's also learning the portfolio. So there's been a lot of work around looking at what the existing portfolio looks like, a lot of documentation, getting out in the field. And so we're also, as a Board of Commissioners, benefiting from this. And I think that's really critical. I think that in order to understand that path forward, you really have to take that deep dive into where are we today? And that work is happening. And so I'm really excited to be a part of that. And I feel like it helps to really promote and inspire and encourage the decisions around, the motivation to keep going forward. We have to press forward. It's critical.
All right. Mr. Fisher, what are your thoughts?
So, I think with the new director that we have in place, there's an opportunity here for new ways of thinking and to really be creative. And I talked about safe and sustainable communities. We have to look at being more equitable about the distribution of where these communities are and not concentrate them in certain parts of the city. Like, it's a small city, but it's a big city. And we have a lot of opportunities and places that are ripe for additional housing, for more density and additional development. I think we need to look, especially west of the park, of Rock Creek Park, to look at opportunities for development. And I think that when we can spread out and make affordable housing available in all parts of our city, I think we really need to focus on that. And so I would certainly be a champion and advocate for additional affordable housing in other parts of the city. As far as what the board is to do, I think we also need to be open to suggestions and making the tough decisions and making sure that we are also working with responsible developers who are going to do the right thing and make sure that we have the right mix of housing, the right types of unit, especially family size housing, as we continue to move forward on all of our projects.
All right. Well, you know, both of you know that the Housing Authority is our largest landholder, public landholder in the city. And as we look at the, building on the beginning of the improvements on our properties, what do you see as a future direction that we might move in as we're trying to upgrade, rehabilitate the properties, and so that we can improve the living conditions and, excite those who live on our properties to understand that they are very much a part of the whole housing ecosystem that we're trying to improve on here in the district. Ms. Lee.
I think that this is a great opportunity when you talk about community outreach. That's very critical as we think about that path forward. It's very important to take advantage of that opportunity to partner with the community and understand and incorporate what the community is looking for and use that to help move forward with responsible and equitable development.
All right, Mr. Fisher, you have comments?
Yeah, I agree with the comments of Ms. Lee. I have in all of my positions, community outreach has been vital to making sure that we all reach our collective goals. And you can't do this if the community isn't on board. So you have to make an effort to hold those meetings, to have those conversations, to go on site and visit folks to see what these conditions are, to see and ask, how can we help? How can we improve these conditions? And so, I think it's going to be super important to really talk to the people and not just sit as a board of 13 amongst each other. You really have to go out and meet the neighbors. I think that's going to be of critical importance for this commission.
All right. Well, as it relates to the redevelopment of the former, or the, I guess, current headquarters, 1133 North Capitol Street, I just wondered if how you feel the project is moving forward at this time. Mr. Fisher, because you had mentioned that one of your goals is to make sure that decisions are made, and that there is progress that continues, and that you can measure the results.
Yeah, so I'll admit I need to get a little bit more up to speed on that particular project. I do know that it's been slowed down for many years, and I am very well aware of the site and the location. But I would have to read up on some documents to see where we are on that before I will go on the record to speak specifically about the project.
All right. Ms. Lee, you have any thoughts? You said you've only attended 5 meetings. You've only been a member long enough to do 5 meetings.
Yes, but that is a project that is moving forward. And I think just, one of the themes, at least in the 5 meetings that I have attended, there really is a theme of trying to unstick things that have been stuck for a long time and to create a momentum and to move forward. And so there is movement on the project. And I realize that it can be difficult. There's just a tremendous amount of history around so many different projects. And sometimes there can be a bit of analysis paralysis. So it's hard. You have to try to balance this historical knowledge with where today's market and where today's need is, but try to do that in a way that does not mean kick the can down the road more. So I see the active ability of the commission to try to take all of the different thoughts in the history and the desire to move forward and try to use that and balance it.
No, I certainly appreciate your comments because this is a project that was awarded about 8 years ago. And prior to 8 years, there was discussion about awarding it, and the process for determining the awardees it's been even longer on the books. And so, I'm just trying to understand, or have a sense of the nexus between where we are today. And I love, obviously, Mr. Fisher's point. Let's move expeditiously and let's get things done. And that just brings to mind some of the comments that I've heard from folk who live on public housing properties that have been destined for redevelopment through the New Communities program, and they're still waiting. And Mr. Fisher is very familiar with the area in Ward 7 in particular, and so Lincoln Heights. And so I'm very, very concerned as to how quickly we can get a result. And just to, I think I have to mention this because this is something that I'm sure the public wants to get as much clarity on. How is from your perspective, how are procedures moving forward as it relates to the various investigation sources that you have at the Housing Authority today? Ms. Lee, you probably have to be the source of information on this.
Sure. I think that definitely there's movement. It continues to be handled primarily through investigative bodies. And so I do think it's progressing. I obviously don't have a specific update to share, but there's definitely pressure from the Board of Commissioners to keep the movement and the momentum there as well. And there's a lot of discussion around policies, procedures, and again, not just from the Board of Commissioners, but I think also, Director Donald recognizes that there needs to be change. And so I feel like we see it coming from both sides.
All right, well, thank you very much. I'll turn to Councilmember Silverman, who has been able to join us. She's a member of the Housing Committee. And Councilmember Silverman, the floor is yours for a few minutes.
Thanks so much, Councilmember Bonds. Yes, I've been in and out, so thank you for your patience with me this morning. Good morning, Ms. Lee and Mr. Fisher. I am going to focus my time on you, Mr. Fisher, as a new nominee. So it is in no way to be neglectful of you, Ms. Lee, but I think, had a fulsome conversation when you were first nominated. So good to see you again. Mr. Fisher, I do have some due diligence questions, and I know you from, you have an extensive background in district government, which was detailed in your questionnaire. I do want to delve into a few answers. So first, you have the Fisher Group LLC. You said that you do not have any district clients. Do you have any clients right now?
The clients are really seasonal. So from time to time, I consult small businesses or maybe some nonprofits with some of the work. It's really reviewing documents, those type of things, but nothing that is related to real estate or that would be in conflict with my duties at the Housing Authority.
That is the crux of my question. So no one who has any current work with the Housing Authority or who would be bidding on any kind of contract with the Housing Authority? Not at all.
No, ma'am, not at all. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Second is, I see in question 26, you're currently registered as a lobbyist for American University. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and what are your responsibilities as a lobbyist for American University?
So I'm the Assistant Vice President of Government Affairs, and I monitor legislation that comes from the council or the federal government to see what the impact is on the university.
Okay.
As a result of that, I work with the Consortium of Colleges and Universities and obviously the DC Chamber to talk about how these legislations or policies might impact us. I do not actively or directly lobby council members or the mayor, but as the registered lobbyist for the university, I do have to register. I obviously have to register and identify myself as such.
So it seems like in your role, you have to work with the executive, though, or you are representing American University in policy areas that impact land use, that impact the intersection between the university's operations, the community, and therefore you would be interacting either with government agencies of the executive. Is that correct?
On occasion, I do interact with government agencies, maybe DDOT or DCRA regarding traffic issues in and around campus, or there's an installation of a bike share station, or if they're going to change a traffic pattern in and around the university. So on occasion, I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily lobbying at that particular.
Right, but you're working with the executive.
From time to time, yes.
To represent the interests of American University. And you are, I think, knowing the direction I'm going is that you want to maintain good relationships with the executive. You need DDOT to be able to work with you and American University on traffic related issues. You need DCRA if there's a building permit that needs to be acquired for a new campus building. And it seems like these universities are building they're big builders, that you want to have favorable, good relationships with the mayor and with the executive in order to make sure there's smooth sailing on those projects. And that is the crux of my concern. So there has been concern about the independence of the board. And we had discussion, actually, Ms. Lee and I had discussion about this in her confirmation. Here's my concern, Mr. Fisher, is that you work for American University as a government affairs vice president, in which you're trying to maintain good relationships with city leadership to get it, because you're employed by AU. So you want to make sure that AU has good interactions and is not in friction with the executive to represent the best interests of the university. In order to be truly independent on this board, you might come into conflict with the administration. The deputy mayor for planning and economic development, I imagine that DEMPED is an agency that you would need to interact with in your responsibilities of AU. The head of DEMPED is, and he wears two hats. He's head of the planning and economic development, as well as he's the chief of staff to the mayor, sits as your colleague on the board. This is somebody who you might need to deal with to represent the best interests of American University. I'm going to stop there because I think you know the point I'm making about my concern that you might be able to disagree with Mr. Falcecchio, as well as the executive's point of view about, let's say, a DCHA project. And do you feel like you could disagree with them and therefore there would be no repercussions to your work representing American University where you'd have to work with the executive?
So my position is that, I'm going to do what's in the best interest of the people in my service on the board. I believe that I have the integrity and the disposition to stand on my own 2 feet and make the decisions that I think are right. I would always recuse myself in any instance where there was a conflict of interest. I have spoken to our general counsel and gotten the information I needed from them. But to answer your question, yes, I may not always agree with the administration on some of the things that they might put before the board. And I am one of 13 votes. And I will vote the way that I think is most appropriate.
Okay. And have you discussed this with your employer with American University in terms of,
Yes.
there might be a time in which I'm going to disagree with Mr. Falchecki, the deputy mayor, and the mayor's
Sure.
chief of staff, and I just want you to be aware that
Yeah.
could happen in my service on the Housing Authority Board.
I have spoken to my boss, president of the university, and again, general counsel. They are fine with me serving in this position. Again, I believe that the work that we're doing at American University stands on its own. We are, we got our campus plan approved by the zoning commission, by the Office of Planning, and that what we have proposed is we shouldn't have any issues or be concerned that the district or the administration would not be in support of what we're doing.
Okay, just in terms of the executive, again, I did see in question 24 that you contributed to the mayor's, I guess, 2018 or 2014 campaign. There was a $200, or is that the current year?
The current
It's 200.
campaign. That's
So
correct.
again, let me press the issue of independence. You contributed to the mayor's reelection.
Yes.
Do you think you could disagree with the executive and with, again, the chief of staff to the mayor, given it appears that you're a supporter?
Yes, I've known the mayor for probably 10 years now, before she was mayor, when she was a council member, and have gotten to know her over the years. So the answer to your question, yes, we've disagreed and agreed on certain things over the years. So yes.
Okay. Now, I think I first met you when you worked for then council member Alexander.
Correct.
And I think Councilmember Alexander had chaired the Committee on Human Services. And I think at that point, perhaps Director Donald might have been Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services. Can you just tell me about what your professional relationship has been with Director Donald over the years?
I've only met her over the course of the years, just in passing at various either events or meetings. I don't have a significant relationship with her. And I believe, Councilmember Silverman, when I left Councilmember Alexander's office in 2014, she had the health committee. I don't know if you.
Oh, she had health. Okay.
So
not human
I have
services.
never provided oversight to Director Donald.
Okay, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. I think I have one more minute. Councilmember Bonds actually veered into an area I was going to veer into, and I heard your answer. So I was going to ask you, what is your opinion on the 1133 headquarters deal? Do you not have an opinion, Mr. Fisher? Do you think, I guess my question was going to be, do you think DCHA, I'm really bad with acronyms, got a good deal on the headquarters?
So at this time, I'm not in a position to answer that. I need to do more.
Okay.
I'm aware of it in general, but I have not read up enough to give a.
Let me pivot then. So
Sure.
the real question about it is who the deal was really for. Was it for developers, or was it for people who benefit from the housing authority, people at 0 to 30% AMI? What is your take on these deals that you'll have to approve, and what is a proper level of affordability for those kind of deals?
Well, I'll say that we need to really focus on the extremely low income population in our deals, and whatever that percentage is of AMI, 0 to 30%. I agree. We need to do more for those residents here. COVID has had an even harder impact on them. And as a member of the commission, I will advocate for more units for that community.
Okay, very good. I'm out of time. Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Good to see you, Ms. Lee. Thank you, Councilmember Bonds.
Thank you, Councilmember Silverman.
Thank you, Councilmember Silverman. And I just have a few more questions for our nominees. I'll start with I guess one of the major issues is this 0 to 30% AMI and the charge of the housing authority to provide housing basically for that income group. And of course, the housing authority as custodians of the housing choice vouchers, which are the federal vouchers, the income bracket goes up to 50%. And so what I want to understand is really your philosophy, your thinking about how do we make that application when we know that the housing authority is responsible for persons at that income level who need housing. And then we have the Housing Production Trust Fund that allocates now 50% of its expenditures for that income bracket. So how do you see the authority working with the Housing Production Trust Fund, or do you see it working in that direction? As you know, the Housing Production Trust Fund is just gap financing for projects, and it's very important financing because most lenders are not adapt to lend at the 0 to 30%. So I'm really trying to get some thoughts from you as to how can we use the trust fund if we need to, or is there a need now that DC being the only housing authority in the country that actually receives local dollars for its repair work? I know, complex question, but just to get your thoughts on that.
I think what we see with each of the projects, and I think just, standard underwriting, standard deal structure, I think for each project, it's going to be critical to look at each of the sources of funding and put together a structure that allows for the delivery of the housing, with the housing authority really driving what is that need. So, how many units need to be 0 to 30%, and then how do you combine these different resources so that we optimize them? And I think it's going to vary. It will vary by project. Obviously, I don't think there will be a one size fits all approach, but we most certainly should look at every single tool available and every single resource that helps to deliver on the critical housing need, particularly for the deeply affordable units.
Okay. Well, one of the concerns in the community is that the housing authority, DC Housing Authority, may be thinking that in order to make the necessary repairs to our, I think, 8,300 units, that we may be looking at actually some of the properties becoming private. And so what's your thought about privatizing public housing? And have there been discussions that you've been a part of at the board that would lead us to think that this is a direction that we might move in? And what would be the benefit of it?
Yeah, most certainly. I think that that's a very important topic that we're all trying to understand what it means. What does it mean as an allocator of or recipient, and then allocating the housing? I don't think that many of us are versed enough, so much so that we're actually seeking training. And I think that's critical. So personally, I'll say that I've been doing, I've gone back through the archives, and we do have training coming up to help us understand what does this mean, because it's important as you make these decisions. That's the other critical component. So you take the different resources and tools that are available, but it's very important to understand what those tools and resources mean when you're using them for different, for preservation, rehabilitation, new construction. And I just, again, I'll echo on, piggyback on a previous answer. I appreciate the encouragement of learning and understanding what we're doing so that we're informing our decisions better.
All right.
So I don't have a specific answer. I apologize. I don't, I'm not versed enough in the differences yet, but very committed to learning what those differences are so that we are making better and enhancing the decision-making process.
All right. Well, Ms. Lee, you're leading me to understand that it's probably time now to have conversation with the authority to talk about the different tools that you find at your disposal and that might be used. And that sort of piggybacks into Mr. Fisher's perspective that he is hoping to come on the board to help expedite and create more progress. So I appreciate that. Mr. Fisher, did you want to add something? I don't want to leave you out.
No, thank you, Councilmember Bonds. You know, I will just say that I agree, like, obviously there's a lot more learning that I need to do to get caught up to speed, but I will say this. I think that we need to move in a manner that is efficient and a manner that will provide the best opportunities for our residents. And I'll leave it at that.
All right. And in doing that, I think you both are very clear that a conflict of interest can come from almost anywhere. And as such, you know, it is your integrity that you will have to rely on. And we will be relying on that as you serve. So I want to thank you for your comments and your testimony today. And I look forward to the committee meeting to mark up the report from today's hearing. So thank you very, very much, both of you, and the best to you.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you. If the public has any additional thoughts or would like to submit written testimony regarding today's nominees, please email housing@dccouncil.us. The hearing record will close at 5 p.m. on Monday, the 23rd of May, 2022. And this concludes today's roundtable. With that, the time is 12:04 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned. And thanks to the staff again. Thank you.